Okay, what's going on YouTube and Joe fans in general? Speaking of general, you see what I did there? That's a little, that's what we call a little thing I threw in there. A little impromptu. Yeah. Technically, he didn't start out as a general. We got to know him as a colonel. He was the leader of the G.I. Joe team until Sunbow decided he wasn't. And then they backpedaled and they said, oh, no, no, no. He is. He is. Hang on. I've got a couple of customs here in the way that I'm going to move, and then we'll come back to. I'm going to say that I need to change up my my dialogue, my repertoire here. I need to start writing scripts. This is only my fourth video, only the second one that you're going to see so far. And I want to go over Hawk. I posted that video about Battle Armor Cobra Commander, and now I got to balance the scales. And I got to talk about the guy who originated, who led the team. You can see here 3 Hawk figures with freefall heads. Why did I use freefall? We'll come back to that. I'll show you. Might have a little something to do with this Hawk head. What's that Hawk head doing on Grand Slam? You haven't seen my first video or second video yet where I rant about it, but I think the catchphrase, who gives a fuck about Grand Slam, is going to get used a lot here. I coined that. Yay, yay me. So we're going to come back to these guys. I just got this second Battlefield Commander Hawk yesterday, and I've been wanting to try this for a while, so everything kind of lined up perfectly, just like me getting that other Battle Armor Cobra Commander in the last video yesterday. So he's looking heroic as fuck. This head, it looks like, I don't know. It's not Hawk. They have a bit of an identity crisis with Hawk. We'll go over that. We'll get to that. Let's see here. Let's put your foot peg stand back that way. My entire drafting table here is at a bit of a weird backward slant. It broke. And I can't raise and lower it anymore. The little tension knobs that you screw in and out to get it to hold the position no longer will screw in and hold it. So for whatever reason, the way it was designed, the back end is actually a tiny bit lower. And so when I had all my Joes displayed on my desk, they would fall over backwards constantly. But I had mentioned, let's see here, what I'm trying to do here is have somewhat stock Hawks in front to go over the various releases of Hawk. It's not all of them. Does anybody care about the tech armor? No, we're not touching that. You'll notice I'm going to be sounding more knowledgeable about the years and everything on earlier figures, and when it gets to later on, I'm going to get a little mixed up. I'm going to forget what year something came out, and you know, there's going to be errors here and there. Who cares? Normally that's terrifying to me. We're going to just muddle on through and do it. I do have yojo.com pulled up and ready to go to try and mitigate some of that. But I like Duke. I've mentioned that in the other video you haven't heard yet because it's 2 hours and 45 minutes and it's taken forever to upload. I like Duke. I liked Hawk better. Duke was the poster boy for Sunbow. Hawk was there from the beginning. Not everybody knew that. It's funny how many videos I hear other Joe collectors talking about, and I get it. And I probably was in that same situation. Hawk originally came with the 82 mobile missile system. And as such, I don't even think there was anything really pushing him, unless you read the comic or read the file cards. Sometimes you're not even going to know that. I'm grabbing the file cards out. There he is. Whoa. Whoa there. I've got a nice plastic reissue of the G.I. Joe 12-inch figures footlockers. I'll show it to you later. And I kind of willed it into existence. I'd been wanting one for a while. On eBay, they weren't too expensive, but they were, shipping on a big-ass box like that. Kind of negates the whole thing of being cost-effective. And then after thinking about it for a couple of weeks, one showed up at Value Village, and I was like, yeah, all right. So even though it's not the original wooden ones, I wanted something plasticky. I wanted toyetic, plastic, fake-looking footlocker. And I've got all my file cards crammed in there right now, along with the Pocket Patrol pack. So, Hawk. Hawk deserved better. This is what we initially got. Straight Arm Hawk in 1982. If you look at his file card, you get some inkling. His full name is Clayton M. Abernathy. He is the missile commander. His code name is Hawk. But then for his primary military specialty, they've got artillery. For his secondary military specialty, they've got radar. Birthplace is Denver, Colorado. His grade is 06. I should know. I've forgotten more things in the last 10 years than I care to admit. I should know what that is. I mean, it's officer, obviously. But again, as a kid, if you don't know that, there's nothing on here that says colonel. There's nothing on here that denotes he's the leader of the G.I. Joe team. Now, you can infer some of that. Hawk comes from a well-established, real loaded family. He's a West Point graduate, top of class, and has seen action in a number of trouble spots. Graduated Advanced Infantry Training, Covert Ops School, served on Cadre, North Atlantic Range Command, and USA ENGCOM EVR Missile and Radar Training. That's classified. He's a qualified expert in the M16, the M1911A1 auto pistol, and then it just kind of trails off. Did he come with either of those? No. No. He came with 3 missiles and a trailer. He is keenly intelligent and perceptive and quite capable of totally selfless acts in support of his teammates. An excellent leader! But what comes to mind immediately is him fucking over the whole team when they're in, I keep wanting to say Kazakhstan. God damn it, Borat. Afghanistan, when they're going up against the October Guard and Cobra, trying to get this downed spy plane with experimental, looks like almost like Kirby-esque, Kirby Crackle, anti-gravity energy coming off of it. It's Jack Kirby. But he lied to the team. He sold them out to Cobra, and they were just carrying junk parts back across the border to distract the October Guard and Cobra. Now, he's never really portrayed that way again. He can be a bit of a dick, like when he snaps at Scarlet to get her ass on the C-130 and stop, whining about Snake Eyes, getting vaporized, supposedly, when Baroness bombed the Cobra bunker on that island with Quinn and Dr. Mindbender in there. He can be a dick, but Larry Hama never portrayed him in that same cutthroat way again, which I kind of like. I'm glad. There's a different, he can support his team. He takes care of them. He can be an ass, but having him do that early always kind of threw me off. Now, granted, my first experience with the G.I. Joe comic was 3 Strikes for Snake Eyes. And then the next issue, when they go back to Sierra Gordo and he's yelling at Scarlet, I was like, damn, he's an asshole. Now, they kind of dumbed him down a little bit later on when he, not dumbed him down, but softened him a little bit. After Duke came in and took over and they kicked him upstairs, and then he came back in his battlefield togs. Again, that's why I've gone with this free fall head, because it looks more like the artwork in the comic. Rod Wingham's artwork. I think his hair was parted a different way, but if you look at Hawk's head, and speaking of his M16 that he should have, huzzah, this is what we got. Actually, this is first what we got. Straight arm. Then we got this. And he came with a helmet and a visor, but that was it. But that's okay. That's what accessory packs and stealing from other figures is for. You can see here he's got his little Hot Topic silver backpack. I painted a tan accessory pack backpack. And he also has sneak peeks, binoculars, and he has, this is either sneak peek or Footloose's M16. It's very similar to Grunt's M16. It's slightly underscaled and thin and small, but it's got that strap, which I like. And it just makes the character look a little more substantial. And these original figures, when you have them all next to each other, they look great. When you put them next to later waves, though, they look a little spindly, a little plain, and just giving them extra gear, you know, a satchel charge, binoculars, something hanging around their neck, backpacks, slightly bulks them up and gives them a little more of a premium exclusive look. And speaking of a premium exclusive look, before we move on to Ronald Reagan here, this is what we should have gotten. As I was rebuying the original figures, I was like, there's no way I'm going to get Silverpad's Grand Slam. He's like 150, 180 bucks on eBay. I had actually bought this MMS. No, that's the MMS. I had actually bought the Jump Jet without him a while back. Now, this guy I found for 90 bucks, and I'll do an actual video on Grand Slam. He'll get his head back, but I feel like when I got all of the original 13 together and I displayed everybody, I've got this front and center. If you look at the current picture I have as my backdrop on my YouTube channel. God, that feels weird saying that. Actually having this and slowly building it. I have this front and center because I only have one of it. I actually just got some additional decals on the way. I'm gonna set up 2 of them, but this I actually have. When I clear out this clutter and focus on that a little bit more, you'll see what I'm talking about. I have 4 consoles and currently 3 jump jets plugged into those consoles because it looks freaking, I'm so excited I'm stuttering. It looks fucking awesome. It really pads it out with just the one console with 1 jump jet plugged into it. It's kind of sparse. There's not much there. As I was saying, when I put everybody together, I've got Silver Pads Grand Slam front and center. I tried swapping stuff around, putting Flash on there, or Orange Pad Grand Slam. And I wasn't sure what to do with Silver Pad Grand Slam. And then I was like, wait a minute. I was trying different heads on this body just to see about, making up a new figure. And when I stuck this head on there, and I realized, wait a minute. You telling me they're going to do a Hawk with a jetpack later on, and they actually missed the opportunity to do a Hawk with a jetpack back in the beginning? This should have been an exclusive mail-away figure. It would have been cheap to make. They're just kit-bashing parts. We could have got an exclusive Hawk, kind of refreshing Hawk's presence in the line. And if they had done that, we might have got Hawk on the actual Sunbow cartoon early on. Duke could have still came in and been the field leader. Hawk was the commanding officer. They gave Hawk the short end of the stick. So this made me happy. Every once in a while, I'll do a custom where I'm like, well done. Well done, you. So this made me happy. Oh, the reason I mentioned the price earlier, he was only $90. He was dirty. His paint was all worn off, and I repainted him. I still want to go over him with some gloss coat and dull coat, but on camera he looks pretty good. In person, I can tell the texture of the paint isn't as smooth as I would like it, so that'll even that out. That'll make me happy. But again, this head, this freefall head, looks like an updated version of the original Hawk head. Again, another missed opportunity. You can have more than one blonde person on the team, Hasbro. Okay, let's move him over here for now. And speaking of that, why, at least for the longest time, they fought the change. And in the Marvel comic, Hawk was still blonde, just with his new outfit. Now, granted, when this figure came out, this is a fucking awesome figure. His helmet doesn't fit that great. You can see on this one here. I'm not going to take that off and put it on because it's just tight enough that it will usually scrape up his hairline. It'll scrape up his eyebrows. I believe on this one I touched up his eyebrows because they were all rubbed off. But his helmet is really big and chunky and doesn't sit right. I've noticed now that I've painted this, and I wanted to just try something just to make it pop a little bit more. I didn't have to paint the entire strap. I'm still looking at this as what would Hasbro do on their cheap-ass budget? So I just added a little bit, some gold and some silver paint. And it actually makes the helmet look a little smaller on his head. It still fits better on this head. It's a little loose, actually, but it's still bulky. For some reason, Bazooka and Crankcase, well, Crankcases fits a little bit better. Bazooka and Footloose have giant-ass, thick-ass baby got back helmets. So this was just an experiment, just because I happened to pick up another Hawk one day and I wanted to see how that would look. I like to keep one figure stock, the way it came originally, unless there's something really stupid on it, such as Battlefield Commanders having the giant-ass screwed-in backpack. So he's just got a dusty backpack, and then I've got his big-ass rifle shoved in there. He's got his cunt cap and his spray-on tan. And that head does not look like Hawk. This should have just been General Flag. That would have been badass. Add a few more stars maybe. Or I don't know. I can't remember how many stars. Okay, let's move him. But one thing that further validated this head was when we got a slightly updated version of that head. It looks like they just took the same sculpt and they sculpted on this Jim Lee-esque Nick Fury Gambit headgear. And this actually made me like that head sculpt more, because we got some continuity. Granted, it's shitting on the previous continuity. Hawk is blonde and has a buzz cut. He's got a flat top. He's got a very severe ass flat top. But this was still cool. But again, it could have been better. And there's a later issue when Hawk wears this new outfit once or twice, when they're trying to pick up, they're trying to rescue Destro. It's Billy, Zartan, Destro, Cobra Commander. Baroness falls out of the helicopter, out of the Tomahawk, I think. They have to knock out Destro so he won't go after her. Night Creepers are coming out because Cobra Commander put a hit on Destro. But Hawk is blonde still, and he's in this outfit. You can see a little sticker I put on there. That was an extra sticker from the from this set, this decal set. Okay, you stay there. But when all the neon was coming out, and and people were like, "Oh, the line's going downhill," there's still some really good figures like this. There's not much difference between this figure and the original 13. It's a little high-tech looking, yeah, but it's still got some very basic colors. The only thing that's changed is the amount of detail. He's bulked up. The tooling's different. Got the ball and socket neck. But this is how G.I. Joe initially started out, a mixture of World War II era technology, Vietnam, and futuristic stuff. And I freaking loved it. So again, it's not a bad Hawk. I remember when I picked him up, this one here, I had to do something with the extra Hawk head that I pulled off of this guy. So I wanted to see what regular unadorned Hawk face would look like on this body. And if you look at this backpack, I actually had this on this body for a while. Where's my finger? And then I just swapped stuff around for display reasons. It just made more sense. So this came with a Hawk figure. It was, one wing was half broken off. The other one had a big stress mark in it. So I took an X-Acto knife, I took some clippers, and what I wanted to do was just remove the wing itself. I wanted to leave the backpack intact, but I wanted to remove the broken wings. I'm going to take these broken wings, learn to fly again. And I wanted to leave the backpack without wings. Why? I don't know. He takes up a shit ton of room on the shelf with the wings. And it's kind of like an Archangel feel. When Jim Lee or Whilce Portacio was drawing Archangel, his wings couldn't fold up completely. He'd still have like this weird backpack on his back, which made no sense. They're techno-organic. They should just be able to just minimize themselves, disassemble like nanotechnology, go into his body, retract into him. But it still was a kind of a cool look, even though it was like, how does he take his spandex uniform off? How does he wear normal clothes? Just hides it with an image inducer? I don't know. But that was the goal here, was to take a broken jetpack and make it look like it was on purpose. So he looks more complete rather than incomplete, like this guy. And this was another experiment. Hawk's supposed to be blonde. Again, I should not have painted his eyebrows blonde. Should have left him brown. And this yellow paint was a bitch and a half. I had to slather it on really thick. So he looks like an albino hemophiliac. It does not work. But it at least gave me an idea of what it would look like. And I feel this looks better, obviously. Okay, let's clear some room here. Let's zoom out for a second. Let's push in. But again, I don't know why Hawk was treated the way he was. Hawk deserved better. This should have remained a standalone playset / vehicle with no figure. Fucking grand slam. He came with the How. So we got a straight arm and a swivel arm of orange pad grand slam. Nobody came with this initially. Flash is seen in most of the early artwork on the lunchbox and posters. Flash is on, has a jetpack on. And then what do? They reissue it while the 82 version with no figure is still on the shelves, not selling. At least that's what I've heard in other videos by other reviewers who go into much more detail, more coherently than I am so far. But they refreshed it. They put Silver Pads Grand Slam with it. And that character, they didn't do enough with that character to warrant two versions of him that close together. 82, 83, 84. No. It should have been Hawk. You can see here, I took an extra star from an extra label, sticker sheet for the MMS, and I hit it with a hairdryer so it would contour to that shape a little bit better. Because again, why does Starduster get it? Starduster gets to star. But you got a kernel right here. So again, initially, this is all this came with. And yeah, there's no sight on that one. But this is a cool little playset. This is before they started doing the battle stations. And if you see, again, my background photo, and if I ever get these other videos posted, you'll see my whole setup over here in front of the headquarters command center with a shit ton of battle stations and everything. And that really complements and kind of adds to the original 13. Especially when you've got like short fuse with the mortar defense unit mortar, the little ammunition boxes, and the giant ass mortar from the forward observer. Like, he looks badass. So this was cool for what it was. They could have pushed the notion of adding to it, though. If they had just said on the commercial, you put it together. You can also add consoles and jetpacks from other jump jet launch pads to have a multiple launch unit. But they didn't do that. It's a missed opportunity. I don't know why they didn't do that. So initially I just displayed this with the 3. Then I decided, no, we're going to go full circle, full squared circle, and put 4 on there. And now it takes up even more room. But it looks more substantial, obviously, because it's got all this extra shit on it. And when you can get sticker sets and put like extra names on here, so I've got Stalker, Scarlet, Grand Slam, and obviously Hawk. So this was a badass little set. They just should have sold it better. They should have pushed it better, and they didn't. They didn't do that. And again, you've got a character named Hawk, who, granted, I think they're just naming it after the Hawk missile system, which is what the MMS is based on. Thank you, Hooded Cobra Commander 788, for that. But you've also got a character named after a goddamn bird that could be flying. Just like the same reasoning they gave for this Hawk doing like forward aerial command reconnaissance, whatever it was. Actually, I forgot to get his file card out. Wow, that was stupid. All of that could have applied to Silver Pad Grand Slam body with jump jetpack with a Hawk head on it. Hawk head is sounding like Hog's head almost. So actually, before I look at that, we can go over this file card here. This one is a little more clear. And I like that. Dude, his head looks badass. His face looks badass in this. And that reminds me, I want to show this off really quick because I noticed this as I was going through reorganizing my my file cards earlier. Well, hold on. We'll come back to that. Do I really need to do that right this second? Yeah, I do. There it is. One of the main selling points of any toy line was artwork. You've got Earl Norham's artwork for Masters of the Universe. You've got the original Diaclone art from Japan for Transformers, coupled with, now I don't know the artist's name, who was tweaking some of that. I think there was a different one doing the background artwork for the box art. But and for G.I. Joe, and I should know his name. I've watched enough videos with people talking about him. And I know it changes at some point. But one of the major selling points of this stuff, like I said, or you will hear me say in one of the other videos if I can post it successfully, the lore that pushes you to want to buy these little chunks of plastic crack is usually threefold if they're successful. It's the action figures and the packaging, which I'm about to go over, but it's also the comic book and the cartoon. And sometimes you have 3 different versions of the same lore, but you can kind of pick and choose what you like the best. And again, Hawk is blonde. And there's nothing in this photo that naysays that. But looking at that artwork and looking at this shit, that totally takes away from this feeling like a real person, like a real character. Like, where's the artistry? You're taking a close-up, a bad close-up, a badly lit photo of an action figure, and just here's the character. And you're also cutting down. Like, that's, God, those are the dark times. There's still some good parts. A lot of good fodder. parts. And that Snake Eyes figure actually looks good. I like him with that extra blue on there. I like the other one better, but... So, 1986 Hawk, his file card. Clayton M. Abernathy. So there's no question it's the same guy. It's not like Downtown. Or some of the other characters whose names randomly change. Downtown should have been Short Fuse. Just saying. Okay. I'm not going to read his entire... Yeah, it looks like the serial number is the same. I know that changes a lot. I don't care. Birthplace is the same. Primary military specialties are the same. So I guess regardless of rank, I mean... I don't know. But right here, spelling it out. Hawk, G.I. Joe Commander. So there's no ambiguity. There's no... Oh, look, there's another grunt-type figure that comes with a missile launcher. But he's got silver on him, and he's got the same head as Short Fuse. So right here, Hawk was the original field commander of the Joe team before he got his general star and was booted upstairs to honcho the entire G.I. Joe operation. He's a West Point graduate and has a list of special education credits as long as his arm. But he still managed to get the main body of his experience out there where it counts, on the battlefield. Hawk's the type of commander who goes out and gets shot at like everyone else. Troops respect that. He won't, sorry, I've got a little thing in my way that's trying to focus, and it's obscuring what I'm trying to read. Troops respect that. They know he won't ask them to do anything he isn't willing to do himself. And that's why they are willing to do anything Hawk tells them. Like, get on the goddamn plane, Scarlet. Worry about your dead boyfriend later. Go take the airfield with Grunt and rock and roll. And then steal a man's taxi cab. So, anyways, a lot of this early stuff in olive drab and green at the same time doesn't always work. A lot of this stuff in olive drab green that looked, again, this is actually a real missile defense system in the real world. Now, when I go over the vamp in that video and gush about the vamp, you'll see this attached to the back of the vamp. I'm not going to do that here because this video, I was trying to keep this down to 30 minutes. We're at 38 minutes right now. But you weren't checking your watch. You didn't care. I don't like how rickety this is. I never had this as a kid. This is really loose. I think I added a dab of hot glue in there and a dab of hot glue on all the fins that plug into the missiles to try and hold them in place. Or maybe it was I think the other one is still glued really well. This one's starting to come undone. And at least with hot glue, you can put it on and take it off. But my first experience with this mold was during the 25th line or after the 25th line. And I don't remember if it was Rise of Cobra, Pursuit of Cobra, whatever. There was a Target exclusive that was black with red missiles that said Heat Seek on them, which was technically a reissue or homage of a Cobra colored MMS that came out in the vintage line. Now, I usually leave this on here because I don't want to break this. And also, when you have the stand on here, this is such a stiff piece of plastic. It just does what it wants. It just goes where it wants, usually. And so I'll have it set up the way I want it. I'll go to take a picture and then it moves. Or it'll knock the figure over. So that's good enough on there. Again, this is a badass little thing. And when I got the heat seek, I got like 3 of them. And I was repainting them in different colors, blue and black to go on the blue Hiss tank. I tried to do a red one, and then I just got out of Joe's completely at the time and got rid of everything before I finished that one. I was going to do it more red, make the red match the Hiss tank a little bit better. That came with the Ultimate Battle Pack. So, I get it. Back then, even though stuff was cheaper, people were not making anywhere near as much. The dollar was worth more. A few dollars doesn't sound like that big of a deal today, and it's part of the problem we're having with inflation. But a lot of people just did not get it. And so a lot of kids didn't have Hawk. And then you start watching the cartoon, and there's no mention of Hawk until 1986. And yeah, Hawk's supposed to be older, but I felt like he got promoted young, that he was a badass. This version of Hawk in the cartoon felt like past his prime, felt like they were homaging Ronald Reagan, and it kind of annoyed me. I liked this younger, maybe mid-30s, early 40s Hawk that was an asshole. And then they mellowed him a little bit. But he's still a good character. I don't know if I'll keep him with this helmet, but at least it gives him something else to hold. And it ties him back into the other previous version a little bit. I had heated up his hand in some boiling hot water to get him to hold his helmet. There we go. Without breaking his thumb. If you don't know about that, that's a thing you can do. This plastic reacts really well. Gets some of its flexibility back if you heat it up. You can use a hairdryer too. I prefer just dunking, one small part in hot water rather than getting heat all over the figure and possibly risking discoloring something. All right, that's going to get annoying. So that was Hawk. We're at 43 minutes. I'm trying to keep these a little bit shorter to see if I can add more videos quicker. Retrain myself to speak for long periods of time. It feels like I'm making less mistakes than I did in the first 2. It's probably also has something to do with getting more sleep. But I think I'm going to wrap this one up. We're going to go to 45 minutes exactly. Maybe a little bit shorter because the intro that I add on with the text will be a couple of seconds. So my last video was 30 minutes and 6 seconds or something like that. And after a while, I'm not going to care. The video is going to go as long as it needs to, be as short as it needs to be, or as long as it needs to be. I don't know. But anyway, Hawk, I love you, man. I didn't even make a Hawk TUAH joke. I really wanted to, but I was like, I ain't gonna do him like that. Hawk deserves better. So that was my video of the gaggle of Hawk figures that I have, and I hope you liked it. And like and subscribe, leave a comment, ask questions, and make requests. All right, we're going to wrap this up. We got 30 seconds to go. So I will be back, maybe even today, with another video. We'll see. We'll see how fast I can get this put together and uploaded now that I know what I'm doing. So thank you again for sticking with me. And I don't have a catchphrase yet to wrap this up. Take care. Have a great day. Thank you.